Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for part 3 of our amazing webinar series, I Crossed the Line. I'm joined by Leif again. Hey Leif, how are you going?
Hello, how are you?
Very good. I'm very good. So today we will be going through impossible occlusions, and I think this is a really important webinar today, because if you want to be able to take your scanning to the next level, if you think that you're really great at scanning, but those tricky occlusions where you kind of think, better not scan it, this is the one that you really need to pay attention to. So we're going to very quickly run straight into the practical, because we don't want to waste any time. So if you just give us a little bit of time to set up, we're going to get straight into it, and Leif's going to explain everything that needs to be done today.
Yeah, and don't forget, get those questions into us, and we will have a debrief and Q&A straight after the practical component. So we'll see you then. Talk to you in a second. Okay, now we're ready to do our practical component like usual. And this week, we've got some exciting things to do. So I'll walk you through what we can actually do today. The first thing is we've been very privileged again to have a live patient, which is a fantastic thing to have when you want to demonstrate exactly what it is that we do in clinic, obviously. So we're going to go through a few things today, and we're talking all about occlusions. I will look a little bit at the complex partials that we talked a bit about in the debrief last week, but specifically we're going to look at how to record an open bite. Now that can be very handy, especially in two indications. One, your occlusal splints, and dentists do a lot of those, obviously, to protect the teeth. And so what we want to do is, we want to actually open the bite with our scan, or record the open bite position with our scan. Now, this process came about a couple of years ago now, when we just started getting into scanning in one of our large locations that I was working in. And what I did is we had 18 chairs in that practice, and pretty much I asked all the dentists that whenever you had a splint patient, can you please put them in my book? I'll scan them up for you. I'll record their bite for you, and then you can issue the case and see how that goes. And so as part of that research project, we did about 300 cases testing this method that I'm going to show you today, and it worked very well. You may have another way of doing that, cotton wool to open things up. That's fine, but this is something that I found to be quite good, and we also added a verification step. When we did this technique without scanning, there was always a risk that when we sent the bite, which was wax inevitably, there would be some damage or distortion to that. But with the digital, you actually don't get any of that, so it's quite good. So that's the first thing we're going to do with our patient here today. The second thing we're going to do is look at the two very difficult cases. One, which is a lower canine opposing a full upper, and the other one is we've got two standing molars on the lower opposing, again, fully dentate, or it's actually partially dentate with a denture on the upper. Impossible occlusion cases, and they both will present challenges, and I'm sure you're going to learn from both of those today as well. But anyway, let's get straight into this section, which is how to open a bite. So the second indication that I forgot to mention was, one, for splints, it's fantastic. And why is that? So when the lab gets your impressions in a conventional sense, sometimes you'll give them a PVS bite, but all you've done is put that PVS on the patient's mouth and ask them to close together. So it's just a centric relation bite. So most of the time they just throw that in the bin and hand articulate it and open the bite on an articulator manually. And that's where sometimes you'll put your splint in the patient's mouth and you'll find this very heavy posterior contact. And it's exactly because our articulators are just like crocodile jaws. They just go up and down, snap. There's no real accurate representation. Well, there is in some articulators, but irrespective, unless you've done a motion detection, a motion scan, or it's very difficult to actually reproduce that. And that's the reason you get a lot of issues posteriorly. So if you can actually build your splint for the patient in the mouth, and then record that digitally, you're going to see, as I did with 300 cases, bang, perfect occlusal, nice occlusal contacts. And again, the second thing, I keep skipping it, don't I, is the other good indication from this technique is when you want to do a full mouth oral rehab, it's a great way to actually open the occlusion, and then your lab can actually restore to the open occlusion that you've provided them. It's very accurate because the patient verifies. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. First thing we're going to do is, I've got some wax. I've got my little trolley here. Now my little trolley, I've got a couple of things. I've got my little burner, wax knife if you need that. I always have a little bit of cold water close by because I like to cool down the wax as quick as possible. I know that poses shrinkage, but again, you're coming in and out of the patient mouth. It verifies every single time anyway, so I'm not worried about that. So first things first, grab your sheet of wax, and with your sheet of wax, it's pretty easy. Just grab your brush flame. Now, we don't want to make it drippy wet, your wax. You just want to get a nice even heat, even coverage. Now, this is your first stage. Now, the thing that I tell the patient, now before I've even done this, I'll have looked inside the patient's mouth, and I know where their centric relationship is, and I've memorized that. And with this gentleman here, he's actually a class 3, so he's an interesting case for us. So all I'm doing now is just making a little sausage, not too thick. We just want this as our verification piece that brings us back to centric each time. Now I'm going to actually get our cameraman to come into our shot, and again, I don't really like having our cameras in on the shots, but that's okay. We'll just get our cameraman to come in now and have a look. So what I'm doing is I'm actually placing the wax along the occlusal surface of the lower teeth and getting my patient to bite together all the way as far as you can into centric. Now keep their cameraman if you can just for a little bit longer. What I'm doing then is I pull away. Firstly, I pull away some of the wax from the buccal, just a little bit, because this pass is not too thick, especially around the centrals. Thank you, cameraman. You can pop out there. And what that then does is it gives me a visibility so that on my next stage, which I'm about to show you, I'm actually going to see the centrals coming together, and then I can stop them before they, again, obviously get back to centric. So my objective here now is the incisal opening that I will produce right now. I want that to be around about the same as what a splint would be. Three or so. What do you reckon, 3 mil? Yep, there you go. This guy makes more splints than anybody I know on the planet. He knows what, and that's why he's concurring. We can use him for this one here. So opening up for me, opening up. Now, what I've got here is a verification of our centric position. I'll pop that in the water just for a quick tick. And what that does, it just cools off. Now you can go in and out of the mouth, check. But for this instance, we won't. I'll just pop that back in the mouth just for safekeeping while we do the next step. Now the next step, you can close together for me, thank you. The next step is grab your wax again. Now you've got your little wax piece, whatever you got left there. Now this is the critical stage. You want your wax to be nice and soft, but not dripping, but not too soft. I'm not really being very specific here, am I? But anyway, we want a nice covering of wax. But this is the trick. This is the trick I want you to remember now. I don't know about you, but these things never seem to work without a lighter these days, but I've managed to get a good one, which is good. So all I'm doing now is I'm just taking another piece. I'm rolling this also into a sausage. It's like rolling what are those, the tally hos or whatever they are, when you smoke and you, anyway, no one smokes these days, do they? Now I've got my two sausages. I'm going to actually put one on the left-hand side, one on the right-hand side. Then I'm going to give my patient the instruction to very, very slowly close. So, Mr. Patient, I'm going to ask you, when I put these two pieces now, they're going hard, we don't want to do that. When I ask you to close, I want you to very, very slowly close until I say stop. Now, when I say stop, don't go all the way through. Just stop in that position. If you want to open, you can, but just hold in that position. So opening up for me, again, just placing, and we will get the camera to have a quick look at this. Cameraman, if you can come in now, that'd be great. I'm just placing one sausage on the left-hand side, one onto the right-hand side. Now I'm just asking my patient to very slowly close, please. Keep coming, stop. Now I'm stopping him at a position, thank you very much, where I'm comfortable that that's about the thickness of a splint. So open up for me now. Okay. So now this is what I got. I got wax everywhere. That's okay. What I traditionally would do now is I would seal the edges of the wax. I would seal them with my little wax knife here. I'd heat that up in a chair, and I'd actually just seal that all together. Then what we'll do, and I'll show you, well, we might as well do it, hey? We're going to do this properly. This is interesting now. I don't have a, it actually does. That's good. Yeah, fantastic. So we're locked in position, and I'll come down and just pop this on my little table, and I'll seal this all together. And you can seal it lingually as well if you want, but don't get too crazy and don't drop wax into the indentations of your teeth. Okay, now I'll pop that in my water. Now, the good thing about having this is you can go in and out of the mouth 100 times and verify that bite. Well, probably not 100, you'll probably close the bite. But again, just opening up. I'm just checking now to make sure that I'm in the right position. Close together. Okay, open. Now, close together. Mr. Cameraman, can you come back again? Sorry, just for a moment. The other thing I'm doing now is you can see the wax is covering the buccal surfaces of the teeth. So I'm just peeling with my fingernail, just peeling off some of the wax so that I can expose the buccal aspects of the teeth. Thank you. Open. I'll just pop that back down there for a second. Now, why am I doing that? For obvious reasons. The way that the scanners that we have here that we can use today, the way that they record occlusions is they picture map the images. So you've got, and they only picture map the buccal surfaces because that's really what only you can access. So they picture map the buccal surfaces of the teeth, and they're looking, all they're looking for is a similarity that they can puzzle this picture together. So if you've got wax covering the entire buccal surface and you've already done your scans of the upper and lower, you will not get a record. It will not come together. But if you've cut away the wax and it's very, very clear, then you will be able to get a record, which hopefully works right now when we do it, right? Again, it's always tricky when you're going live to get these things working, but I think I'm pretty confident. So opening up for me. Again, closing together. All right, I just want to do one more picture of our cameraman. Come in one more time, please, sorry. Just having a look there. If you can just move the camera around to this side as well. You can see that I've got the teeth nice and clear. Now that's fantastic, thank you. I think everyone can see that now. As I pick up my scanner, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my scanner down as far as I can to the posteriors, like so, and we're going to turn our scanner on. Now our scanner is running. Mr. Cameraman, can you just come back one more time? Have a look at this position. Just watch my scanner. So there you go. Geez, well, it was like 2 seconds it came together. You heard the magic sounds and you saw it on our screen. But all I'm doing, and I'm going to keep going now anyway, is I'm actually just running around. If you can just back out a bit more of that shot, that's fine. Okay, that's cool. Thank you. What I'm doing is I'm just toothbrushing. Now I've crossed the midline, and that's what this series is all about. And this is actually where it came from. It's crossing that midline. Now, when I cross the midline, it means I can come back like this and reposition my scanner and keep going the other way if I haven't gotten the bite. Now, I'm actually not happy that the bite came in like that. I would have preferred to make it a bit more difficult for me so you could have seen how hard it can be. But in effect, your scanner goes down into the posteriors, you come around, you bring your scanner as far around, cross the midline of the centrals, and if you still haven't got the bite, you take it out of the mouth. Now, do not turn the scanner off. Do not turn it off. We want to run that back around this way and place it back in and keep going. Does that all make sense? All right, well, I hope that made sense for you. We've got a bite now. Our patient is ready to have their splint made, and take it from me 300 times. We've done this technique in a row in our research period, and it works every single time. And you can also use this, as I said, for opening up full mouth oral rehab as well. Thank you, Mr. Patient. We'll just give a bit of a wipe down, and we'll come back in a moment and we'll do the next step. Thank you. I hope that was helpful to you, and we're all clean now. We're wiped down, ready to go for our mannequin session. Now, what I'm going to talk to you now about is the reason why I bought a scanner. What this next little segment will do is show you the amazing cost savings and time savings that you can achieve through intraoral scanning techniques. I know we talked a bit about these two cases. I showed you a little bit about them last week in our debrief, but I will just recap a bit of a scan strategy just quickly now before we actually start to record the bites, which is obviously the reason why we're here. We're talking about impossible occlusions. Now, the reason I use the definition impossible occlusion is because without an intraoral scanner, it would be impossible to record it on appointment number one. So to be able to come into appointment number one, ineffectively, in the old school reckoning of things, to be able to record your primary, secondary, MMR, all in one appointment. That's where I see a lot of value for intraoral scanning, to be honest, and that's why I bought one. These cases I never thought possible, and the reason I guess I had a go at it is several years ago, again, when I was learning to scan, there was a gentleman with a similar case to what we had here. He was going away in literally a couple of days, and I had to make him a lower acrylic denture, and he had, you know, two lower standing teeth, and I could not, obviously, without an MMR, I could not actually record them. But I thought, you know what, let's give this digital a go. And so I did. I digitally scanned it. We 3D printed it, made dentures. The guy flew off and he was happy. And so that's where I really, really fell in love with this entire process and this journey. And so what I want to do tonight is look at these two cases in a little bit more depth. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the scan strategy for both of them. The upper and of both of these is very easy. You know, it's just there's a lot of teeth everywhere. It's very easy to record. The lower is not so easy. So this lower here presents with two lower standing molars, as you can see here. These lower standing molars, she had quite good ridges, to be fair. And don't get too caught up if there's a very, very flat ridge, saliva everywhere, and the camera is just not taking photos. It does happen, especially with long span like this. But in effect, I thought, you know, I'm going to have a good crack at this and see what I can do for this lovely. She was actually 97, but she was fantastically healthy. So my scan strategy for this was this. I basically always start where the most amount of teeth are, no matter what. You know, typical scan strategies will tell you to stand on the left, make your way along the occlusal surfaces, but I wouldn't do that. On these cases, I always start where the vast majority of hard structures are, and I literally will just go roll over and around, etc. Rolling and rolling and rolling with my supporting index fingers and thumbs as I keep going on about. But that would be how I would do. Then the next thing I would actually do for this case is I would then, there's a step here. So you notice, and you find this a lot when you've only got a one tooth, is you're up here in the air scanning, but then you come down and now your scanner's not actually capturing anything because it's too far from the camera to the mucosa. So you've actually got to angle your way down to get down to the ground, so to speak. And then I actually would just come around like so and retracting with my fingers as I go, using my scanner. Now I might actually put this back on the mannequin and I will show you just one more finger position with a close-up from our cameraman. If I could just get him to come in now, that would be great. So again, my index finger now, I mean, this is more realistic. So we've got the head off the patient though. It's just basically with my supporting fingers, just rolling around. But what I would do is I come around to this side, is your cheek would be here. So what I do is I actually retract the cheek with my scanner. So I use my scanner to really retract it, and that actually makes the really mobile mucosa quite firm. Well, it's scannable in a way. And then as I retract, I roll, and I use my scanner head to push down. Thank you, that'd be great. To push down, basically to push down and retract for me as I image. And that's really the strategy I would use that I did use for this case. Rolling around, and sometimes you need to get a wet tissue or some air, cotton to dry things off. But when you do that, you will find that you can actually capture an image. And again, this is a good case. Granted, both of these cases were quite good. Actually, the second one was a bit more tricky. As you'll find out, it's even tricky on the mannequins, which you'll see in a moment as well. Okay, so let's pop the head on top of this patient. I want to talk to you a little bit about my thought process for recording this scan. So we have here, our contact points are all here. And now again, there's no sense starting your bite record scan here because there's nothing contacting here. So it always makes sense to start your bite record where the most amount of hard structures are contacting. So if I had one tooth, for example, in quadrant 4 lower, contacting with the upper, I still would start here because there's more hard surfaces on that side. I would then ask my patient to open, pop my scanner in, and I'd get it down the back, exactly what I'm going to do now. So we'll actually do this occlusal record. Now, I have to also premise this, that 3D printed models don't have saliva, they don't have moving mucosa, so recording a bite on this is actually a lot easier than the real thing, than when I really did this case. So if it does go off and scans and occludes very quickly, I'll keep going and I'll show you the path that I actually did to record this case. So I will get my cameraman again to pop in and ruin our beautiful image as we do this case. So first things first, I will start right here. So you can see here are our molars, occluding with the upper molars, and I'll have my thumb, again on quadrant 4, my thumb, my index finger, and my thumb running around this way as we push our scanner. So I won't turn the scanner on until I'm in position. And my position starting is here. So I've retracted the patient's mouth, pop my scanner in, and then I start scanning. Now the motion I do is a brushing motion. You can pull back a little bit, Mr. Cameraman, just a fraction more so they can see what I'm doing. Okay, well, it did what I didn't want it to do. It recorded the bite straight away, but let's keep going. So now I've got no teeth on the bottom. So what I do is I keep going along the upper. I come to the midline. I think the camera can pick that up from here, Mr. Cameraman, thank you. And then what I do is I actually then take the scanner away. I take it out of the mouth. So I've come to the midline, and again, this is what this seminar is all about. It's about crossing the midline. I've come to the midline. I take my scanner out of the mouth. I then switch it. So I'm scanning like this. I then switch it, and I'm scanning now like this because I'm going to keep going this way. So what I do then is I come back and I try to find a relocation point, which I've done straight away, which is good. And again, I just keep coming along the natural teeth until I get down to the posteriors. Now what I do now is I come back to to the midline, toward the midline. I actually start to roll my scanner downward. So I'm recording the teeth and I'm rolling it downward. Now that's exactly what I had to do with this case. It did not, it did not capture it in a couple of passes there. I had to literally start on the molars, run around the uppers, and then I got to the uppers, and then I came down the face of the upper quadrant 1 molars, and then I started going like this. That was my movement. So up, twist, up, down, twist, up, down, twist, up, down, twist. And then that beautiful sound came. Now, if that beautiful sound doesn't come, it's not the end of the world, because you still have that, the manual relocation, but you're giving the manual relocation as many points of contact to be able to relocate that for you. Now I'm going to put in the next case, and I think we're actually going to have to use that for the next case. And I don't know why. It actually worked in the mouth, but this one's actually quite tricky. But I'm going to show you the entire path again. Let's first things first, start with the scan path. Now here's our lower. I'll put this down for a moment. Here's our lower. Now our lower, again, presents with a lower canine in quadrant 3. And when I saw this, I went, oh, geez, this is going to be tough. I might need to do an MMR. The scan actually worked quite well. I was able to scan him up really nicely. Saliva wasn't really a factor there. Tongue was quite agreeable and moved out of the way. But I knew that occlusion is going to be very difficult. And he was, again, opposing a full upper, which is, again, very easy to record that as well. So what I then do, let's pop that on our mannequin, on our dental chair. Now, the reason we keep putting these things back on the dental chair is because that's what it's really like. This is not real. When you've got a scanner and you're running around like this in training, it's not real. This is quite a nice little nifty device that our friends from Anatomic 4D made for us, which is good. And these models are fantastic because they can go straight on those tracks, which is lovely as well. So we'll put the head back on. Oh, let's do a quick, have a look at, let's just quickly get this file up. Just get this patient's file up. And while that's thinking, now we have the case up and running now. Now what we're going to do is we are just going to have a quick look at the scan path before we get into the occlusal record taking part of it, which is what this is all about. So we have our lower in position, and I'm just going to show you what I did with this lower to get a really good scan of it. So again, I had my index finger sitting onto quadrant 4. My thumb was a supporting feature that again supported my scanner head. And I went straight for that canine. I had my sights set on it. That was my target. And I just wanted to run around that as quick as I can, get a 360 of it, and then work from there. So again, I popped my index finger on, had my thumb, ran around the canine, and then I start to think, okay, geez, where do I go now? Well, I then retracted. I retracted the cheek, pretty much like this, retracted it out. Might get the cameraman in again just so you can see a little bit closer. So I ran around 360. I then retracted the cheek. You can see my movement here with my scanner moving the cheek out of the way, and then I rolled, and then I was able to go. Now, hamular notches, again, is very difficult, so you need to actually really angle, thank you very much, you can help out now. You really want to angle your scanner so you can follow that retromolar pad up the hill. And again, that's quite tricky sometimes. So you're using the tip of your scanner right there. This is the part right here that I use. And I use it to flatten out the mucosa and then image as we go. And then basically I came around the other side and worked my way back. And again, I rolled over the ridge just like I'd roll over an incisal edge. And again, retracted the cheek on this side. So that's how I actually recorded that. And I got a really good record of this patient. The outcome was it was an acrylic denture, but it was a fantastic, and I was very surprised that the outcome was as good as it was. It was a very, very good case and good patient. So let's pop the head on and let's see how we're going to record this occlusion. Now this occlusion is only one tooth. And so when you've only got one tooth, two is good, because you've basically got 100% more than one, right, if you had two. But we've subtracted an entire 100% of really, really tooth-to-tooth contact, proprioceptive contact points. In this case, we've only got one. But the principles stay the same. And again, I want to show you, actually, if this bite doesn't do the magic noise and give it, I want to show you a new aspect in 3Shape, which is actually fantastic. And I got that update recently, and it's really, really good when you're using the manual relocation. So I actually did get this one in the mouth, but let's see how we go with this one anyway, because I've done a few rehearsals and it's actually pretty tricky to get this one but it will actually be a good illustration with the new aspects of the application that we can use together as well. I can show you that through our screen viewing as well. So first things first, I start again right over the top of the HUD's proprioceptive contact points, which is the lower canine to the upper. Now I'll see if I can just get the cameraman in again so they can see the path that I'm going to take. So again, I'm just running around. If you can go above, maybe, Mr. Cameraman. Yep. And I'm just running around and I'm catching. Now you can see if we cut across to the screen record, you'll see that I've caught the upper already. Now when I come back, I start to roll down and I want to catch some of the lower mucosa, because I've already scanned this. I want to catch some of that lower mucosa as I come down. So I'm moving my way back and I'm rolling my finger. Okay, thank you, Mr. Cameraman. And back around. Now I'm now coming around to the midline. So you can see my hand position now. Obviously I don't have my hand inside the head, but it will be here, like so. And again, I'm still supported here. My thumb is still supporting my scanner. And I'm coming to the midline. Now at the midline, what do? You take the scanner out of the mouth at the midline. And do you push the button to stop it? No, you don't. Leave the scanner running. Leave it running, because as soon as you push stop, that completes your bite. So what I then do is change my hand position. So I'm in this position. I'm now reversing my position, and I can get back and make my way all the way down the other side. So again, just on the midline, looking for a relocation point. Now, if you pass the midline in your first pass, you will be able to relocate your midline very easily in the next one. Now, we'll see if I can get the cameraman to come over the top now, if they can. You can just come up nice and high, more sort of here. There you go. That's good. And I'll just continue to make my way. Now I'm going to make my way all the way down the uppers, because that's really easy. And that's fine, thank you. And now I'm starting to rotate. Actually, I do want to show them one more thing. If you can just come back in, sorry. Come around a little bit further. A little bit further. There we go, that's good. And I'm coming down. And now I'm starting to roll. I'm starting to roll and get more mucosa. So the more mucosa I get, the better the record will be. Oh, there you go. We actually got it. And so we can really, I actually didn't think I was going to get that, but anyway, fantastic. There you go. It works. It did actually work in the mouth as well, by the way. That was the most important realization for me and this technique. So what we want to do is we want to, again, Find the most proprioceptive contact points. Start there. Always start there. Then go backwards. Toothbrushing all the way up. Come to the midline. Cross the physical midline of the patient. Take the scanner out of the mouth. Take the scanner out of the mouth. Flick your grip. Change your grip. Find your relocation point. Now, because you've scanned past the midline, you'll be able to find your relocation point, and you continue your scan from there. And once you get to the end of the upper, well, in this instance, the uppers, you start to move your way back to the center line, rolling, 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 capturing as many indicating markers as you can. I hope that helped you. If nothing else, it shows you the possibilities, because these are real life cases that I've done, and I can attest that this is the reason why I got a scanner. So this, I guess, we'll recap now a bit more in our debrief and question time with you, Joe. But for now, these are very, very important cases that can show you some techniques that will get you scanning and will save you so much time. I have done some cost-benefit analysis of what time I've saved, materials, time, and it's actually very meaningful. It'll pay off your scanner in no time. Hope that helped. Let's take a quick break now. We'll just move our dental chair back, get ready for our debriefing questions, and we'll speak more then. Thank you.
Perfect, Leif. That was fantastic. I mean, one of the big things for a lot of Trios scanners is that when they do have a case like that with a really hard occlusion or, you know, a specific bite, they do struggle with a lot of the time. So I think that it's so amazing to be able to get these little tips and tricks, and especially for something that's, you know, like splints, for instance, that's like bread and butter for a lot of dentists. So I think it's really amazing that you're able to kind of elaborate and show where the value is and what you're being able to, I guess, to articulate in that hands-on was it's not impossible to do these impossible occlusions, right? And with some amazing technique and things like that, you can very well get these very hard cases.
The possibilities open up so much. They really do. When you understand, okay, obtaining a scan of the mouth is one thing, but you've got to put them together. It's not good enough just to have a great scan of it. It's not good enough to have just a great impression. And anyone who's a denture maker would know that occlusion is vital, absolutely vital. Now, you've got some cool things as well. You can do motion movements and whatnot with your
patient-specific motion.
Exactly. So there's a fence for those people that want to get some lateral excursions and protrusive movements. You can do that as well. It's
perfect. Good. All right. Well, we do have a couple of questions here, so I'm just going to jump straight into them for you. So when taking an open bite, how important is it to understand the centric relation first?
Okay. All right. Good question. It's vital, but it needs to happen before you start the bite process. So you need to get familiar with the patient's centric relationship to be able to reproduce it. And the reason you want to reproduce it is because that becomes your baseline upon which you will build your occlusal splint. So when you're doing that technique, think in your mind, all I'm doing here is building a splint out of wax. And then I'm recording it digitally because I don't want to have to post it and get distortions. You're just building it, and you're building it with the best articulator in the world, which is your patient's mouth. And so, yes, understanding the patient's centric relationship, then being able to build from that is really important.
Good. I've got another one here. What is harder to scan, a occlusion with a single tooth or a full over full denture?
Okay, definitely a single tooth is more difficult.
Right.
A full over full, there's a few different ways to do it. Do you want me to have a crack at that? So let's say, for example, the week before you've scanned your patient's edentulous arch, upper and lower. Let's say if it's a full, for example. You've scanned both of those. You're happy with those scans. You've then 3D printed them, and the lab has given you a bite block, right? It's given you a top and bottom wax bite, and you put those in the mouth of the patient, and you record your bite like normal, bite like normal. Now, you have an option then, is you can just send back the models to your laboratory. They can then go the conventional way. But if you want to digitalize that, and you're in clinic with a Trios in hand, the way you do that is you can either just quickly scan the models. When you scan the models, you want to actually go down onto the base of the model. So you get additional meat of the models, upper and lower. Then what you do is you take the bite block out of the patient's mouth, hand articulate both, and you grab your scanner and you actually just go onto the model, onto the actual base of the model, and you roll down the wax and you go onto the base of the model, and you'll find that it'll relocate as well.
Perfect.
It's a fantastic technique.
Yeah, good.
And that's how you can digitalize your MMRs straight off the bat without having to send them back.
So, okay, good. Well, I mean, I'm going to just jump ahead a couple of questions because I can see something that says full over full in it. So while we're talking about it, from Amy, off topic, if you have a full over full and you've taken your pre-scans, how do you use the bite blocks to record the occlusion?
Just answer that.
Yes. So I feel like a lot of trios dentists, I mean, obviously we sell this solution to denturists or prosthetists who obviously use it specifically for digital dentures, but we've got that bread, like those dentists, the general dentists who are using it every day for their bread and butter dentistry, but keep forgetting that 3Shape actually have a protocol in place for scanning full over full dentures, scanning copy dentures. There's the 3 options in there where you can either scan the fully edentulous surface, you can scan the actual denture to create a copy denture, or you can scan in the fitting surface of the denture or an actual impression of that fitting of that edentulous surface. And that way it's a lot easier to be able to do the workflow. And then it'll also, when you go to send it through to a lab, it also means that the coordinates in it are configured so that they go up, so that they're, that the software knows when it goes into the lab software that it's up, inside out or upside down, or whether it was an impression, so it needs to flip it side out. So the software is doing a lot of the work for you, and those protocols are in place so you don't have to do the manual side of it.
And it's great because once you digitalize it, then you've got every possibility: print, mill, conventional, whatever you want to do, you can go any way you want, but you got to get that digitalized. In a lab setting, you can use your lab scanners, but again, I've got a lecture that I do called Dentists Will Do Dentures Again. And it's because of what you guys are doing, Joe, that they are starting to do more and more dentures, which is fantastic.
Perfect. So very quick question. Do you use a Leif gauge?
I use a Leif gauge. Did you load that question?
No.
Okay, right. Yeah, I personally don't. They're very good devices. For the techniques that I do, no, I don't. I'm pretty good at getting, I don't really do indications that require it.
Okay. So can you use this technique when taking protruded bites for sleeping devices?
You can. Yes, you can. You can't measure because obviously it's a subjective thing. You're doing it by eye. But again, you've got the patient articulator before you. You can get them forward into a protrusive position. But again, you won't get those exact measurements like if you've got a Leif gauge and you start literally winding them forward. But that definitely works.
Because I know a lot of sleep device manufacturing companies, they will give the dentist like a little gauge to actually help them put that patient into a bite. So okay,
yes, you can use it. But again, you want to be pretty sure what you're doing when you're doing sleep devices. That they're in there for quite a long time. They're generally bilateral, so you've got lots of stuff happening there. You want to get it right.
So if you've got that little device, so if you've got a little gauge or a device in there, do you recommend then keeping it in there if it's easier for the dentist to then keep that into the bite and then scan it over it?
Yes.
So connect it?
Absolutely will work. 100%. So you don't need a connecting piece of wax to connect your upper and lower, even though it's out like it's open occlusion. As long as you've got something, so you've got that little gauge at the front, opening
to
up,
connect it through to create
even
one
that you don't
piece.
need. You still don't need that.
It.
Just go up and down in a toothbrushing position. You won't be able to cross the midline with that, but again, you can do a two-step bite stage for that one.
Got it. How many appointments do you generally save in partial cases scanning this way?
Okay, depends how ambitious you are, I guess is probably question number one. Those cases that I showed you tonight, you could have actually went straight to a finish on both of them. I didn't. I just wanted to mainly check the color. Both those patients were actually one of them was 97 years old, but she was quite fussy. So I wanted to make sure the color was right. And that would be the last thing, is it just for some cosmetic changes if I wanted to change a few things. But many times have I taken them from exactly what we've discussed. First appointment to finish. 2 appointments for big partials, game changer.
Right.
Mega game
I mean,
changer.
we already know that for a full over full, the appointment times are already reduced because we have those. I mean, we've got that data as well. It's reduced by 2, I think.
Yeah, full fulls. The full fulls
If you don't have to retry in or try in.
exactly. They can be trickier, granted. But it's actually you jump into digital as you feel comfortable. You can step into digital 1 or 2 steps throughout the process. You can digitalize the entire process, but just introducing digital in any step makes life easier. So it's really just baby steps, getting yourself comfortable with the technology. It might just be doing that first primary scan. You might be, oh, gee, you know what? I missed a bit of detail, and you've got some hard bases. Well, you can just throw a bit of PVS and you can scan that and do your reference denture technique. So I'm a huge fan of the reference denture technique. That's a game changer for me as well. So between the reference denture scanning that we talked about last time and the impossible partials, that in my mind, all I do is make appliances. It makes no sense not to do this.
Got it.
So that's kind of my philosophy.
And our last question that I can see has come through. I've had a lot of difficulty with cases with no posteriors and 6 standing anteriors. Why can't I ever get it to automatically merge the bites?
Okay. I heard a good analogy recently. When I don't play pokies, but you've seen, you pull down the pokey lever, and because your ideal is you want to hear that.
You want to hear the jackpot sound,
right?
yeah.
That's the scan magic sound. And it's going to take ding, 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 3 dings to get it. It's kind of similar with this.
Got it.
The 3 dings you really want to attack are, 1, understand the technology. So when you're dealing with this technology, understand how it works. And it works like this. You're trying to gather as much information on the buccal surfaces of your scan so that the software can piece this together in like a puzzle-like manner. So you need to do that. 1, you need to know your patient as well. Know your patient's centric occlusion. Know the bite that you're going after and ensure they don't move, which comes down to instructions.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's also so important to get the patient to completely stay still when you're taking their bite, because any shift means that the picture that the trios is taking actually shifts.
Yeah, that's right. And so that's your ding number 2. Know your patient and communicate well. The key words I use are, please close together and don't open until I say open. And I say that nicely. I don't say, don't open, nothing like that. But stay closed until I say, because I might, and I say this as well, I might take the scanner out of your mouth and put it back again, but I still don't want you to move. So those clear instructions are really important. And which leads me to the third point, which is, again, the whole point of this seminar series is crossing the midline. If you only take a small portion of information on a buccal reading and hope to get a symmetry, it's not going to happen. So therefore, you need to cross the midline, which means taking the scanner out of the mouth, switching your grip, and moving across the midline and taking as much scanning as possible. Let's say, so this friend of ours who's got an issue sometimes with the lower 6, standing 6. So you've got the front teeth, which means on an articulator, traditionally, it'll wobble, right? You need the wax blocks at the back. But in this position, you want to make sure you record all the dentition that you can possibly get. And that's really your third ding, and then you'll hear that noise. But as you saw, the update to Trios, guys, with the bite is immaculate. It's a fantastic device.
It's not the end of the world if the software doesn't pick up the scan, I guess the occlusion automatically, because you do have the ability to manually align it anyway. And I know it was difficult. Sometimes it was a little bit difficult, but now that we've updated the software, we've made it extremely easy for you to, if you do get into that situation where you have to manually align them, the software has now been changed so that it's a lot easier. You'll see the 2 scans there. It's extremely user-friendly now. So, I mean, 3Shape's got you covered in that regard, because we've updated and improved that, because we want people to push into, tackling these harder occlusions and everything.
Well, that's where the money is, Joe. That's what's going to save you the time. It's going to save you your lab fees. You're not doing a bite block. You're not doing special trays. You've saved $100 right there and then. You're moving to potentially a digital try-in. So many savings you're going to have there. The lab should be passing this on to you. So I would encourage you, if you're picking up a Trios and you're saving these many appointments, that's fantastic for your time saving. But you also need to ensure your lab is passing on those savings, because they are not doing a lot of things. So if you go from a first appointment to a finish, There's no retries,
Yep.
which they don't charge for retries anyway. So you're saving the lab money. They're going straight. You're saving in logistics. You're saving in so many things.
Yeah.
So I would be bullish about that. I would be pushing
Yeah.
to save in all manner of places, and hopefully can pass it on to the patient.
Good. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. Please make sure you tune in next week, or if you are in Sydney, we will be doing this in-house, so you'll be doing it in person.
Scary.
And we will also be doing some hands-on with the Trios afterwards. So if you are interested in getting a Trios, or you think that maybe you want to have a little demo or try of it, please feel free to come in here and you can watch us live. Yeah, and then a big thank you to you, Leif, for giving us these amazing tips and sharing your knowledge with us. And a big thank you also to Dental Access for being our sponsor here today. If you are thinking about going digital, please make sure you do get in touch with them. They sell our amazing solution, the Trios Intraoral scanner. So thank you very much, and everyone stay safe. Okay.
We will.
Thanks.
And we look forward to seeing you next time. It's going to be fun. We're going to talk about.
We are going to talk about, advanced implant scanning. So full arch restorations on implants. So that's a very interesting one.
Yep, and we'll have something for everybody. So we will have something for the practitioners who are placing the implants and restoring. We'll have some. We're going to go through a couple of different systems that are available in the market right now, but also for the denturists and the prosthetists, so to speak. We also have some scanning overdenture little products as well. So you can take your scanning to the next level when you're restoring locator abutments and things like that as well. So you'll enjoy that immensely. So we're going to do it all with a live audience and whatnot. So we'll see how we go. It's going to be fun.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great night.
Guys. Cheers. Have a good night.